writing a book, and that's probably why he's, but that's a secret.
Well, we definitely have to talk more, Shirley.
Well, so you know how it's going to end when you start.
I think I do, and almost every book I don't. It ends different from what I do. Yeah,
Take
and
over.
yeah, and the characters take over, and they start going in place. You know, one of the best things in the world, though, I just had this happen with the new book that I'm writing, and that's where you get to something. I've got about 300 pages outlined now, and I get to somewhere, and they're in a jam, and something that I set up way back in chapter 4 comes to play here, and it looks like I'm a freaking genius, and it's an accident. And I go, oh, that's just the best feeling in the world. And I guess on a subconscious level, just like some of these things from my past slip into the book that I didn't intend to, I guess you remember those kind of things and they work out.
That's what I was asking, because Sherman's developed the plot, but then he's got the character development going on too, and I was thinking, see, the character started to take on its own, this Chinese librarian. Anyway, this woman's starting to take on her own life, and some of the events that he's got planned for her, I'm not sure if they're going to happen or not. So that's natural then.
Yeah, and that's natural.
If they
In
don't
fact,
happen, that's okay.
in fact, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the things I say to budding writers, if they don't have that happen, odds are you got a problem. Because the characters need to take on a life of their own. And if you feel really strong about the characters, I assume, is yours more character-driven?
Half and half at this point.
Okay. If so, that's a good thing. You want to listen to your character because they tend to know more than you do. And if it doesn't work with your plot, then one thing I've had to do sometimes, I've had to sometimes actually pull a character out of a book and put them in another book because they just wouldn't cooperate. They wouldn't behave. And that's because I was trying to put them in a book they didn't fit in. They belonged in a completely different book. And here's the other thing that's really great. If you have to do that, by the way, one of the first things you need to learn is the ability to throw away things you wrote. You know, when I first wrote, every word was precious, and you didn't want to throw away a page. You have to be able to throw away, delete pages, delete chapters, delete entire books. I've written entire books that nobody else has ever read because you learn in the process. But the words don't go away. They don't get old if you set them aside. In fact, Black Valley is based on a short story I wrote when I was 17 years old. It has very little to do with it, except for the opening about the guy being buried alive and it being a prank. Everything else is different. But it was a short story I wrote. Nobody ever read it. I just wrote it and put it in a little file. And one day I found it in the file and read it and thought, that's pretty good, and it became Black Valley. So all those little bits and pieces, I'd encourage you to keep working. And you're actually writing stuff, and so that's another good sign.
Do you write every day?
Yes, ma'am. And I have to. And I give myself quotas because I have to cheat. I used to say that I had to write 5 pages a day. And I found out by making that the rule that the characters started talking a whole lot more. Because it takes a lot more to do description than it does dialogue. Dialogue I can do at pages. And so that didn't work. So then I had to go with how many, like 5,000 words a day is what I do. And then that way I'm not restricted to just, I don't do as much dialogue. But I have to give myself that firm thing, and I write every day. Now when I'm in the outlining process and doing research, where I am now, I'm doing an awful lot of research. I'm not doing as much page count because I'm still developing the story for the book and where it's going to go. But the writing every day is crucial. Since I went to writing full-time, I actually take the weekends off now and spend with my wife. But what she had to put up with the 10 years before I published and was working full-time was every spare moment I wrote. I got up before she did, and I went to bed after she did, and I didn't do social events. I wrote. Every weekend, every writing day was precious. I wrote. You know how that is. That's what you're going through now. But you have to have that discipline to write. Any other budding authors, by the way? I'd encourage you to try it because I guarantee you all of you got great stories. They're hidden in your
I
life.
just need to get one down on the computer. He's doing it.
How about your experience in broadcasting and all the crime and stuff you've read about, told about? Does that provide fodder for what you're doing?
Oh, it really does.
I bet it would.
Oh, in fact, I had a scene where, I just did this. I have a scene in the new book where I wanted to demonstrate that one of the characters is very good at figuring out things. And I had a case where a sheriff's deputy's little boy has gone missing, and this guy is really good at finding missing people. So they call him in, and he's able to start putting things together, and he realizes what has happened. I won't belabor it, but what has happened is that this sheriff's deputy has accidentally shot his son, and that the son's not missing, the son's dead. And then he further deduces that the son is in the trunk of the police car, because the guy had time to get rid of it. Well, that's based on, the sheriff is called Tommy, because the actual little boy in the actual event that happened like that was called Tommy. Now, his body was never found, but I went down to cover the story. Unsolved Mysteries did a bit on it, because this little boy disappeared, and the dad was a deputy sheriff. And right away, I began to put two and two together, and then when I talked to the policeman, they're going, yeah, we're pretty sure that little kid didn't wander off. The dad was out target practicing, and he's dead. And then the dad did something really weird. He wrote a song which he wanted us to play about Tommy. It was just kind of really creepy. But when I was looking for something, oh yeah, I got that. I have a scene that took place in one of my books that takes place in the Oregon death chamber. And I had a chance to cover one of the first executions in 30 years up there.